Call the regular council meeting of Monday, March the 23rd to order. There is an agenda there in front of you. Can I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda? Councilors Rendawa and Forrester. Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. There's an opportunity now for any member of the public who wants to come forward and address anything that's on the agenda, and there are no members of the public present, so we will continue on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda has a number of items on it. There's council minutes for approval, minutes of the special meeting to close of March the 9th, and minutes of the regular meeting of March the 9th. There's correspondence for receipt. There are letter from the District of 100 Mile House with regards to an NCLGA resolution regarding strengthening rural healthcare. North Coast Regional District Board highlights letter from the Village of Pouce Coupe with their proposed NCLGA resolutions, letter from the City of Abbotsford with their proposed UBCM resolution, letter from the City of Dawson Creek, request for support for NCLGA resolution regarding improved access to publicly funded mental health services. You can tell it's that time of the year when all the resolutions are coming through. There's correspondence for approval, letter from the BC Housing Harborview Garden redevelopment, proposed response from the city. CEO Pucci, and it may be just a gap in my own, but I did not see the proposed response from the city in my package.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I just noticed that. I believe that was missed in there. We can have that circulated.
Okay, thank you very much. Recommendation is that all the items on the consent agenda be approved and received as requested. Councilors Cunningham and Niche, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have reports. Report from the Director of Operations with regards to the big project, Shawatlan's Infrastructure Engineering Award. Recommendation is the council approves the award of engineering services to Associated Engineering in the amount of $1,113,655 plus applicable taxes for engineering and design services related to the completion of the Shawatlan infrastructure works. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Rendawa and Councillor Adey. Any discussion? Council? Nothing? All in favor? Oh, okay. Sorry, Councillor Adey.
Sorry, I'll jump in. I think people are generally aware that work has been taking place on that site, on that project. And so a casual observer might wonder why we find ourselves at a point of approving a design phase. I guess I'm asking on behalf of the public, how do we explain that? Given that this represents work that has already been done, and what happens with that work, and potentially a delay in the timeline. And I know there's lots of folks that are, I share it, would love to see some of these things get done and over with.
Yep. CEO Pucci.
Thank you, Mayor. So I wouldn't classify this as a duplication of work. The current construction ended on that site. We wrapped that up and paved the site for access to get back onto the highway. I know the community was without it for quite a while. During the next phase is to complete the design, and then we will need to close that again to finish the next section. Then we'll go through the procurement process to get a contractor in there to complete that work.
If I'm observing, I'm thinking $1 million plus is a lot for an engineering and design services to lay pipe. Can you sort of explain the complications that cause that to be such a big number?
Thank you. I think I'll defer that to our Director of Operations, who's a little bit more involved.
Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This section coming into the community is by far the most complicated. It's the two main lines that serve the entire community. So they're 24-inch HDPE mains that come into the community. With this serviceability in this area, we're also looking at preparing for water treatment. So it's a complicated design with anticipation of that as well. And there's a number of valve chambers to allow isolation and continuation of service. So it's a twinned line that in the event one fails, we can still continue to flow water to the community. So it's a rather complicated design to ensure redundancy to the community.
Councillor Cunningham.
As far as the big project goes, what percentage of this phase is towards the big project?
What percentage of
The money that we're using?
sorry, I need to make sure that, and staff may understand exactly what you're asking, but this particular piece, what percentage is it of the whole?
Yeah, you know, like,
The Shawatlands piece.
yeah,
Okay.
seeing as it's one of the most important.
Right.
I'm trying to look at you instead of him.
No, and you're doing a wonderful job.
Oh, yeah.
Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have that number handy right now. Until this design is completed, we won't have a cost estimate based on the works, and then we can get you an exact percentage, but there will be an update coming where we're at to date. However, until this design is completed, it's really hard to estimate what the percentage of this is going to be overall.
So when we look at the big project, I know we're over budget a bit. Could we get a figure in a future meeting about where we are with it and if there's going to have to be cutbacks or anything?
C.A. Opucci.
Thank you, Mayor. So we are planning to do a comprehensive update, one for major projects coming up, and then one specifically on the big project and where we're at and what the next couple of years look like. There'll also be updates on, how, lineal meter cost projections on where we think we would get with the total kilometer versus the cash flow. But again, this corridor, as our director said, is the most expensive corridor. There's no other pipe like this in our community. This is a very specific pipe that was ordered, has to be fused together, and large diameter polyethylene, which is obviously quite expensive, or sorry, HDPE, which is expensive. So when the numbers come out for this in the report, it'll show that this corridor is extremely expensive compared to other ones, but please appreciate that this is a very important and highly technical corridor. One of the things that our director didn't mention there is that we will be reviewing the reallocation of a road in that corridor as well as part of this study.
Councillor Cunningham. Oh. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Report from the Chief Financial Officer with regards to the Northwest Regional Funding Report, otherwise known as RBA, that Council approved the amended long-term development plan for the 2024 through 2028 and the annual development plan for 2026 prepared for the province of British Columbia as required under the Northwest Regional Funding Agreement. Councillors Randhawa and Forster, any discussion? Councillor Cunningham.
Just for anyone that's interested, I know the answer before I ask the question, but can you explain how much we're getting per year and when it runs out? As you were one of the co-chairs.
Yeah, I mentioned, I think the last time that we were together that I was in Victoria and along with the other two RBA co-chairs, the mayor of Terrace and the mayor of Smithers, to speak to the province, specifically the premier, as well as Minister Davidson, Minister Boyle, Minister Anderson, about the need and the intention to extend the agreement beyond the 5 years that it currently is. We're about 2 years into the 5-year deal, and we're thinking it's time to start talking about what our future looks like. But to put it all in context, if the RBA was a single taxpayer in our community, they would be by far the single largest taxpayer in our community at $6.8 million a year. And that was effort. I'd love to claim credit for it, but it's a 10-year lobbying effort on behalf of 23 local governments across the entire Northwest that over the course of changes of premiers and changes of ministers kept talking, kept the door open, kept saying, we, the communities of the Northwest, where all this economic activity is bubbling up, need help to make sure our communities are successful so that all those projects are successful. In a lot of cases, it's mines that are outside of taxing jurisdiction that are pounding the roads in in small communities, right? And with no taxing mechanism to help pay for it. So anyway, $6.8 million a year, every year over the course of 5 years. Um, it is basically unrestricted in that we treat it like tax dollars. There are some assigned buckets, which if you go through the report, some assigned buckets with which they need to be directed, but there's a lot of room inside those buckets to go anything from housing to First Nations relation to transportation to water pipes to infrastructure, and the only caveat that really it comes with that was our commitment to the premier that we were in such desperate need of all these projects that we would commit that this would not be used to lower everybody else's taxes. This wasn't, we'll take money from the province and then give everybody a tax holiday. We, we will use this money to do stuff we just couldn't have done otherwise. And there is a website. I think it's just Resource Benefit Alliance if you go look at it, and it lists all the projects throughout the entire region. It's updated constantly, and it is. I mean, it's just been a massive win for our communities. It will be a real loss if we're not able to negotiate an ongoing agreement. The premier was pretty clear that we were a little bit early in terms of talking what we need to do, but to secure an ongoing agreement. But it gave us a chance to tell them all the incredible things that we are doing with that money, not only here in Rupert, but across the region. So that's, if you get me talking about the RBA, I get going, but I think it's just so important that the people of Prince Rupert know about this, they talk about it, that they care about it, and that they tell their MLA that it matters, right? Because that's what's going to cause the premier and others to say, okay, we'll come to the table and we'll negotiate an ongoing agreement. All right, Councillor Niche.
Yeah, I was just going to add to it. I mean, when you look through the allocation of the funds, it really shows in our community where we're investing this money in, and mainly it's in our infrastructure. Whether that's pipes or repairs at the Civic Center, or there's not a lot of things going to extras, and I will note that I did hear today that Kitimat is choosing to spend some of their money on a splash park, which I feel is probably, it sounded like there was lots of concern for not spending it on infrastructure, and I just wanted to point out that that we've used this to our advantage to try and further our infrastructure replacement. And as much as I'd love to build a splash park, in my eyes, that's not a good use of this money, right? And moving forward and fixing roads and pipes and everything that I haven't had the joys of building a fun thing yet. So, right. And I don't know if I ever will. So
and the other thing is across the region, we've been able to multiply the money by matching it with federal money and other grants. So it's producing a lot more than just that lump sum, right? Yeah. No. Very good. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the Director of Operations, RFP 2026-0014, Big Project Curb, Gutter, and Sidewalk. Recommendation is that Council award RFP 2026-0014, Concrete, Curb, Gutter, and Sidewalk Construction to Zulu Aggregates in the amount of $1,292,931.21 plus applicable taxes. Can I have a motion, please? Councillors.
I can move that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Skelton Morvan and Councillor Niche. Any discussion? Councillor Adey.
If I recall, this is the same company that did our paving contract last year.
Yes.
And so I want to use this as a way to segue into something I'm hoping we're going to be able to do this year. Given that this, that this company will have a presence in the city early in the year, I'm wondering whether that might provide us with the flexibility to engage in the tendering process towards our paving contract so that we can finalize that earlier than we did last year and not then have to play Russian roulette with the weather in October and November.
C.A. Pucci.
Yes, we'll absolutely take note of that. Thanks.
Yeah. So, and as a matter of fact, Zulu, as I understand it, is actually a tenant now of ours out on Watson Island. Is that correct? For Legacy. Yeah. Councillor Cunningham.
Did they complete, two things here, did they complete the paving last year? Or I thought they still had some paving to do because of the weather.
Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Due to the weather, there is some sections that still need to be completed. Part of their contract was also related to the big paving areas. So those areas were behind schedule due to the infrastructure work. So those are still on their contract.
So there will be no more increase in the work they've got to do yet.
I'm sorry, say
There will be no more increase or overrun on the work.
costs associated with that, Director Schmidt.
That is correct. So that is from previous contracts. So they hold by contract the value that's been rolled over.
And on this contract here, it's a firm price. There's no chance of extras.
Director Schmidt.
Correct. So it's a per linear price. So if we add extra curb in there, say there's curb damaged or something happens, it's held at that per linear meter price.
Perfect.
you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have bylaw. City of Prince Rupert Highway Road Closure Bylaw number 3664, 2026. Recommendation is that council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert Highway Road Closure Bylaw 3664, 2026. Motion, please. Councilors Randawa and 80. Any discussion? It's been in front of you a number of times and it's been out back and forth. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Council Roundtable. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. I wanted to give a huge shout out to all the kids that traveled from our community down to Langley to compete in the Junior All Native Basketball Tournament, and highlight the great work of the U17 boys, the SAP team, which came and placed gold. They did amazing. They showed, I was down there watching my niece play in one of the U13 girls teams, and I was really impressed with how kind all of the kids from our area were in celebrating other people, even if they weren't on their team. The sportsmanship our kids are showing is amazing. Also, all the kids that are in Prince George for dance.
Yes.
They're winning tons of awards. They're doing absolutely amazing. And then on a different note, I wanted to see if we could have a conversation or get some recommendations from staff around human trafficking, which there's been lots of discussion in light of the FIFA World Cup coming to Vancouver. And so is there any opportunities for us as a community to look at making sure our communities are safer?
C.O. Pucci's made note. Anyone else? Councillor 80.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. Last Saturday, I was driving from the west side of the 2nd Avenue Bridge, and I got stopped at the light there, as many of us are now an experience many of us are familiar with. And there had been a vehicle incident at the other end of the bridge that resulted in the road being blocked off, and there was a tow truck there. And what was also going on at the same time was that the rough patch of paving was being addressed by city crews at the same time. So I have a couple of questions around that. One is that, if I interpreted it properly, the vehicle in question ran into one of the concrete barriers, and I think, did some substantial damage. I had a look at it on the way by. So I'm curious about whether there's any learning there in terms of any elevated risk that occurred for the crew that was working on site, and what, whether there's anything else we could do to make people a little more alert that things are different down there when they drive through. And my second question was related to the delay. I was there for I think about 15 minutes before the tow truck got the vehicle out of the way so that traffic resumed. So I'm curious about whether we have a standing arrangement for the conventional detour route through the CN lands of the waterfront in the event of somebody in section 2 having an emergency, having a medical emergency.
Excellent. Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the first part of that question regarding the accident, it was unfortunate that the traffic pattern resulted in that, a change in the traffic pattern. As far as lessons learned, we've taken a look at it. We did follow all WorkSafe regulations, lane closures. We actually go above and beyond the standard in that. However, there was still an accident, so we're following it up with our safety committee to come up with recommendations. However, looking at the quick recommendations, it's to do some of the work at lower traffic times, do the traffic staging slightly different as well, and open that lane slightly wider in the future and not meet the minimums of WorkSafe on that requirements. As far as working with CN, we started to do the discussions on the major bridge works. However, we did not have an agreement at the time there to use CN property. However, our pothole repairs were done in such a way with the equipment that it could be moved in short order to allow emergency vehicles to go through, but the decision was made on site not to reopen that section of road, as it would have slowed down the repairs and basically made our crew have to stay on site longer, which is a greater risk in the end. So it was to hold traffic. But right now, CN is looking at allowing us for just the bridge repairs to allow us to have access there, but we would need flaggers on either side of Graham, so that lower section of Graham during construction.
Councillor 80.
And on another note, and maybe a more speculative one, but I fear that it's going to become a practical one. I know that, like myself, Mr. Mayor, you're fond of watching the international news, and we see the instability, and I think we're beginning to see the practical impact of that in the form of fuel prices and so on. And we are in municipal timeline coming up on the budget season, and I'm just wondering what kind of flexibility or adaptability we may be able to build into that process, or could anticipate having to build into that process, because I think it's going to be a very difficult year in terms of procurement, just running the fleet of vehicles, because a lot of them are using fuel, and any number of other ways in which it's going to bite a little bit harder. So I'm throwing it out there without necessarily expecting an answer, but I think that we're going to end up having to wrestle with that one throughout the year, and particularly at budget time.
Yeah, I agree. As you know, it's 20% of the world oil going through the Strait of Hormuz. But it's more than oil. It's fertilizer. It's plastic. It's a whole lot of things, and certainly everything I'm reading says it's going to show up everywhere in costs and inflation. CAO Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to defer to our CFO.
CFO Bombin.
Thank you very much for the question. There's no doubt that we are all connected and we're impacted by global events completely outside of our control. We do the best that we can with the information that we have, and at the end of the year, we typically have a budget amendment to recognize things that we could not have anticipated. The increased price of oil, as the councillor has mentioned, and all the other things that make up the municipal basket of goods, certainly will be impacted. The question becomes, how much have we already done in advance? For example, the contract that was just awarded to Zulu Aggregates for the curb and gutter, there is a possibility that we have just locked in prices, which is a good thing. So many of the advantages of doing the budget in the fall help us do the procurement in advance. Now, of course, this could have happened Christmas Day, for instance, in which case it wouldn't have mattered, but we just happen to be a little bit ahead of the game as far as how we're going to be impacted. The rest of the year, it still remains to be seen. It's anybody's guessing game. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
On the bright side of things, I'd like to compliment the yard crew for the clearing of snow, even though they're short-staffed and put in longer hours than I think I'd want to work. And I've been doing a lot of shoveling and that, and I just think they've done a pretty good job with the limited resources they've got. We're not exactly prepared for the type of snow we've been getting.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time ever in Prince Rupert I'm praying for rain.
Anything else, council? A motion to adjourn would be in order. Councillors Ady and Forster, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Good night, Councillor Skelton Morven.